I am Dr. Vinita Bhadoria, Associate Professor of English in Government College, Behror. Welcome in this video. Today I am going to explain The World is Too Much with Us, a sonnet by William Wordsworth. In the previous video, I have given you a brief introduction of the poet William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth was a romantic poet. He was writing during 1770 to 1850. He was known as the best nature poet of his age. The World is Too Much with Us. The poem was composed in 1806 and published in 1807. It reveals the vices of the world and causes the reader to want to search for more, to stop and enjoy the beauties of nature, and to take the time to think. It is an expression of his love and admiration for the objects of nature such as the sun, moon, the sky, and the sea and the wind. It exhibits the love of the poet for paganism. The language of the poem is simple because Wordsworth believes that poetry should be written in simplest language of the common people. This poem is written in the form of sonnet. Wordsworth adopted Petrarchan style in the sonnet. Rhyme scheme of the sonnet is ABBA, ABBA, CDC, DCT. Now I am going to explain you the poem. The world is too much with us. The world is too much with us, late and soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. The poet starts with the world is too much with us with the term the world, and the reader quickly begins to understand what that term means in this context. He is talking about the worldly cares and concerns such as money, possessions, and power. All are materialistic things. And he concludes that it is too much with us. We are too much busy in these affairs or with the materialistic affairs, meaning that we care for too much about these worldly things. He gives more depth of thought to this idea when he suggests that by using our time, minds, and energy in getting and spending, that we lay waste our powers. Getting and spending, we are busy in making our lives luxurious, more luxurious by spending or by earning materialistic things, and we are wasting our internal powers on these materialistic things. In other words, people have powers beyond that which they have tapped into because they are so busy getting and spending. They are tied up in their greed for more money, and their time is accounted for by their actions of getting money, spending money, and caring for their possessions. He believes that money and worldly possessions are far more important to people than they should be. The next two lines, little we see in nature, that is ours. We have given our hearts away a sordid boon. With these lines, he continues that nature with the world. Nature, he contrasted the materialistic world with the nature. He reveals that while people spend their time in acquiring worldly possessions, the true beauty of the earth cannot be owned. He reveals that very few things that people see in nature actually belong to them. He then laments. He is said, we have given our hearts away. We are away from the nature. He believes that where we should enjoy nature, though it is not ours to own. Instead, we are filled with greed and we acquire wealth and worldly possessions rather than enjoying nature, which is God given. The speaker then continues by describing the beauties of nature that people are missing out on by being so caught up in the want for money and possessions. All in these four lines, all the people in this world, on this earth, are busy in materialistic affairs and they are least bothered about the nature which is provided for them by God. Now, the next stanza. This sea that bears her bosom to the moon, the winds that will be howling at all hours, and are up gathered now like sleeping flowers. For this, for everything, we are out of tune. In these lines, Wordsworth describes the beauties of nature that most of the people are missing out on because they are busy in making the life more luxurious by materialistic things and affairs. He describes the sea and the wind and the flowers. His descriptions of these parts of nature are we can use as personification to help the reader to connect with each description. The sea bears her bosom to the moon, which suggests an intimacy between the moon and the sea. The wind howl. Howl. This gives the wind human emotions. Howls are the emotions, human emotions. The flowers sleep, giving the idea these parts, the nature, human attributes help the reader to feel this connection with nature. It paints a picture of nature and allows the reader to understand what he is missing out and by being caught up in worldly possessions and greed. For this, for everything, we are out of tune. For this, for the nature, natural beauties, for the beauties of nature and everything which is provided by God or which nature provides for us. The poet finally exclaimed that we are out of tune with nature because we are so caught up in worldly wealth. We are busy with materialistic affairs. The sight of the grand sea laying upon in the glare of the moonlight night does not attract us. The wind that would be making horrible sounds during the day are calm and quiet at night, but we have no time to appreciate their beauty. We have no sense of appreciation for such a great beauty of nature. We are always busy with the materialistic pursuit of life. It moves us not, great God. I would rather be a pagan suckled in a creed outworn. In these lines, the poet swears an oath that he would rather to be a poor pagan than be so distracted by worldly wealth so as to render himself unable to enjoy the true beauties of life. He appeals to God and even exclaims that he would rather be a pagan than to be out of touch with nature. A pagan is a follower of old faith of ancient Greece and Rome that flourished before the spread of Christianity. So he wants to be a pagan than that of a modern man. The poet is so much disgusted with the ugly life of his age. Ugly life, materialistic life, we can say, that he desires to run away to the age of pagans who were simple and innocent people. The pagans believed in various gods and goddesses found in nature. In their company, he would stay beside meadow and enjoy himself among the variety of beautiful objects of nature. He wants to be with nature. So might I, standing on this pleasant lea. He wants to be with the nature. He reveals that if he were a poor pagan, he would have glimpses of nature that would give him joy and hope, or at least make him feel less forlorn. He would rather be poor and helpless and connected with nature than rich and powerful and alienated from it. Have glimpses that would make me less forlorn. have sight of Proteus rising from the sea, or hear old Triton blow his wretched horn. Proteus is an old man of the sea in Greek mythology who tended the seals, which are the flocks of Amphitrite. He possessed the gift of prophecy and the power of assuming any shape he pleased. Triton is a minor sea deity who used to blow his conch shell in order to collect together the creatures of the sea kingdom. So the poet wants to be one with nature, and he is not interested in any kind of materialistic affair which gives the life more luxuries. In the final two lines, he refers to two pagan gods, that is Proteus and Triton. Proteus was thought to be able to tell the future, though he avoided doing so if he could. The poet implies that had he been a pagan, perhaps he could imagine being in touch with Proteus, or at least catching a glimpse of him as he stares out across the sea. Triton was another one who was the pagan god that was said to be able to calm the waves of the sea. This implies that a poet looks out at the sea, enjoying nature, long enough to see Triton and Proteus. The speaker refers to these two pagan gods after he first appeals to God and swears that he would rather be a pagan than alienated from nature. He is ready to accept paganism for Christianity for the sake of his love of nature. Pagan is nature worshipper, a believer in polytheistic religion. Now Proteus is the son of Oceanus and Tethys, the god and goddess of the sea, and Triton, an attendant on the sea god Neptune. He used to calm the waves of the sea by blowing upon his conch, the upper part of the body having human form, Triton's body, and lower that of the fish, like a mermaid. Triton in Greek mythology is the son of Poseidon. This poem was written in the form of sonnet, and the sonnet is a fine example of Wordsworth's simplicity of expression. The sonnet also illustrates how the exact technicalities of this form suited the contemplative cast of Wordsworth's mind. The poem is stamped with the weighty personality of a profound love of nature. He was advocate of the spiritual and moral excellence of man, which can come only through the sympathetic communion with nature. The essence of thought embodied in this great sonnet may be put in nutshell in the well-known text, "What shall it profit man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul?" Thank you very much. This is all in this video. Thanks.